On today's show, the Lakers put the beatdown on the Thunder. Houston makes another statement, and we're going to talk about all 11 games from a packed Sunday in the NBA right here on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from Locked On Cavs. My partner is Swipa from Locked On Nuggets. And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else, on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit a thumbs up on that video for us. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. In today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. Again, that's $250 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. We had a packed Sunday, 11 games going on, so we got to get right into it, but we do have to start in OKC. Swipe of the Lakers put the beat down on the Thunder, 126-99, a game where LA controlled this one from the start. They had a 22-point lead at halftime, and they just absolutely dominated the full 48 minutes.
Look, this is probably Luka's best all-around game that he's played as an LA Laker, and he honestly was the reason why the game went to the way it did. The playmaking from Luka, the shot creation from Luka, it honestly was on a 10 today. But really more so, the Lakers being able to get a diversified attack between LeBron James, Austin Reeves, and Luka Doncic, that's the dream. That was exactly how they designed things to be. LeBron with a good 19 points today, but he gets to rely on Austin Reeves giving you a good 20, 7 of 15, and Luka on 11 of 20. That is the way the trio was designed to play. They help off of each other. They feed off of each other. They play makeup off of each other. And they have high-end shot making on the team as well. But, y'all, not to be diminished. Lakers fans, you thought that LeBron James was your best player. You thought that Luka Doncic was your best player. You thought Austin Reeves was your third All-Star. Let me introduce you to Dorian Finney-Smith. In just 29 minutes of play, he was a plus 28, y'all. Danny, at the top of the fourth quarter, he was a plus 33 in 28 minutes played, and he looked like an absolute monster. Defensively, switching, rebounding, playing in gaps. That is exactly the kind of player you want to have on your roster. A Mr. Do-It-All. Also went 4 or 5 from the three-point line. Now, again, what was the real story of the game? In the first half today, the LA Lakers were 15 of 22, including a heave from Austin Reeves from the three-point line. They were shooting over 70% from three in the first half prior to Austin Reeves putting that into the air. But just a great game for the LA Lakers. Statement win for them. And on top of that, their defense held the vaunted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to 26 points on just 12 of 23 from the field. But he was a minus 20, second worst on the team today because they could not get stopped with him on the court today. What a win for the LA Lakers. Solidify themselves possibly as the 3 seed in the playoffs. And if I would have told you on February 9th, before Luka was stolen out of the air by Rob Pelinka, that the Los Angeles Lakers would be the 3rd seed going into the Western Conference playoffs, you would not have believed it. And here we are. The Lakers, perhaps with their best regular season since the bubble in 2020. Shout out to the LA Lakers. What a performance.
What a performance indeed. And let's head on over to Locked On Lakers for more.
Lakers podcast, and the Lakers get a 126-99 win over the Thunder in Oklahoma City. One of the best games, strongest, most complete execution we've seen from the Lakers on both sides of the ball. Luka Doncic, 30 points, 11 of 20 from the field, 5 of 11 from behind the arc, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 20 points for Austin Reeves, 19 for LeBron James, 26 combined from Dorian Finney-Smith and Gabe Vincent off the bench. 4 different Lakers hit 4 or more threes in this game, and defensively they held Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to 0 free throw attempts. Big factor in preventing the Thunder from ever chipping away at the lead, and just a terrific showing by the Lakers. this afternoon on primetime. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
So let me ask you this. Let's say these two teams meet in the postseason. Could happen in the second round, 1-4 matchup potentially. We'll see. A lot to be sorted out. What is more repeatable? I don't think either of these things are, but what is more repeatable? The Lakers making 22 threes or Shea getting no free throw attempts?
Well, team, three-pointers are a team stat, so probably the 22 threes. I think some of this is Luka's not played great as a Laker. He's not shot well from two, but he played really well today. If this is the Luka you get going forward, well, he naturally is going to create a lot of open three-point shots for the Lakers. So maybe they can find this kind of offensive juice again. But Shea Gilgeous, OKC fans will tell you that he was getting fouled. And I'll say some of those calls were at least questionable because he was driving and creating contact near the basket. But hey, credit to the Lakers. They were trying to be as disciplined as possible with their hands to make sure that if they did create contact or did have contact sought out against their defenders, they were doing it straight hands in the air, not getting their arms caught in the quote-unquote cookie basket and getting in trouble with a whistle. So honestly, the Lakers, their best self, Danny, is their defense. Can they find their defensive switch consistently enough in an NBA playoff setting versus this OKC team? And really, Danny, the question for OKC that's always going to be the question until they prove the story wrong. Outside of SGA, can you trust any of their players to be a high-level shot maker with or without SGA in the game?
Right. And I think the thing as far as that goes is Chet only had 6 field goal attempts in 25 minutes against the Lakers. If they are going to survive those non-SGA minutes in the playoffs where they are going to see defenses, let's face it, that are as locked in as the Lakers were on Sunday, I think that's going to need to be a higher number. Jalen Williams is going to need to be better than 4 of 14 from the field. That is where postseason games I think are going to be won and lost for them because you kind of know what you're going to get from SJ. He's going to be awesome. He didn't have his best day on Sunday, but you're going to get somewhere between 25 and 35 points most playoff games, but it's going to be about the other guys. They weren't good enough on Sunday. Can they be good enough in every single series in the Western Conference? We don't have the answer to that yet, and maybe they will be. And if so, they can win the title. If not, there are teams in the West that are more than capable of sending them home before the finals get there. And that is certainly the thing that I take away from this. But moving on to a game between another one of the top 2 seeds, the Boston Celtics. They took on the Washington Wizards, and Washington doesn't have much to play for other than Cooper Flagg. The Boston Celtics don't have much to play for, but they still want to win games. So let's head on out to John Corrales of Locked On Celtics for more.
Celtics cruise to an easy win against the tanking Washington Wizards, who had, 8 healthy bodies, and one of them was Marcus Smart, who sat and did not play. So the Celtics jumped on Washington early, buried them under a barrage of three-pointers, and kind of ran away with this. 7 Celtics in double figures. The Celtics hit 24 of 52 from 3, 46.2%. The Wizards were 12 of 45. That's basically the difference in the game right there. Derek White was 5 of 9 from 3. Peyton Pritchard led the Celtics with 20. Not really much to say about this. A good team beat a tanking team by a lot. By design, both teams are happy with this result. So Celtics cruise. They finish up now their final 2 road games of the season, going to New York and Orlando for a back-to-back.
As John said, not too much to say there. Jason Tatum didn't play. Kristaps Porzingis didn't play. There were limited minutes for all of the starters for Boston, considering that this was a 30-plus point victory for the Celtics. So I don't know that there's really much else to get into. Do you have any burning takes from that game you need to get off your chest?
No, just great job by the Boston Celtics. But everybody, make sure as you get ready to pick your team for next year, who's going to have the biggest rise. I would just keep an eye on the Washington Wizards. A.J. Johnson, Justin Champagnie, Alexander Sarr, Jordan Poole, Bub Carrington. They got some dudes over there. And on top of that, I'll be curious to see who they get in the draft this year. Dylan Harper, Cooper Flagg. I'm just saying it like this. Will Bilal Coulibaly? They might be the story like the Detroit Pistons are next year. They have a lot of people on their roster. I think Wizards fans should be excited. None of this matters. Win, losing, we're winning because Cooper Flag, based off how he just finished up his NCAA career, they're saying he's going to come into Washington with his hair on fire. So look, shout out to the Boston Celtics, man, but the real winner, Washington Wizards.
Yes, the real winner, actually the loser. And I guess in this next game, the real winner was the loser again. The Toronto Raptors beat the Brooklyn Nets 120-109. And that is all the coverage of that game you're going to get right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But up next, there was a statement made again in the Western Conference. We're going to talk about Houston beating Golden State straight ahead right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's show brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it can be easy to lose track of all that cash, but that's where Monarch Money comes in, because they'll be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending right in one place. You can stop managing your money, start building your wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan for some of those long-term goals that I know you have. And managing money with your partner can be smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress that you might think could come along with it. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDON NBA at monarchmoney.com. for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Again, use code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Thank you again for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Make sure you're also locked in to your favorite team's newsletter every single day. Just head on to lockedondaily.com. Sign up for whatever team you follow. Their daily newsletter going to be right in your inbox every single day. But next, we got to talk Houston Golden State. The Rockets beat the Warriors 106-96. The thing that immediately jumps out from this box score is, let's go on down to Golden State. Let's see how they did. Oh, Jimmy Butler, 13 points. Pajemski, 19 points. Steph Curry, 1 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 8 from 3, 3 points on the day. One of the worst games of Steph's career comes against Houston on Sunday.
Yeah, and by the way, that was a heave that he made. That was not a within the half-court offense three. It was a heave. He got shut down. This is after coming off his best game versus the Denver Nuggets in literally 3 years. And then he comes out versus Houston and has one of his worst games of all time, maybe his worst since he's been an all-star level player. This was a horrific game. Shout out to the Houston Rockets, though. Look at Danny, big market merchant. Look at that, championship favorite merchant. Look at you trying to prioritize the Warriors and a dominant Rockets win. Rockets fans, let me defend your honor. First off, Amen Thompson. Oh, my gosh. Danny, did you see some of the plays he was making defensively today? Dude was flying around.
He is going to be, and I think a lot of this depends on whether or not he figures out a jump shot. But I think like 3 or 4 years from now, he's going to be in the conversation for the best two-way player in basketball. I think he will, no matter what, be in the conversation for best defender in basketball alongside guys like Victor Wembanyama and Evan Mobley at that point too. But if he figures out a jump shot, like, he's going to be an MVP candidate. Like, I am buying all of the stock I possibly can in Amen Thompson.
Look, I told some people a few days ago, look, I wouldn't be surprised 4 years from now, 3 years from now even, he's creeping around where Anthony Edwards is like, oh, man, like, he's just an unstoppable force offensively because he can get to the rim at will, has a jump shot, pull-up game, but he's also a way better defender. I'm so impressed by him. I want to give him a great shout out today. He was a plus 26 in his minutes, including 14 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds. Alperen Sengun, 19 and 14 and 1 assist today with just some amazing dunk as well. Jalen Green with 21, 9 and 19. But look, here's the thing. Steven Adams, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, they have a nice little bench that they put together with those three. And then you couple that with their starters. They're a rugged team. They're a physical team. They're a team that demands space because they're going to absolutely be brutal on the defensive end of the basketball, and they're going to try to get as many offensive rebounds as possible. 16 offensive rebounds today, even though Golden State had 15. This was a tremendous game. They beat up the Golden State Warriors to solidify themselves as a 2 seed. And look, I don't know how good they are in the playoff setting. I don't know. But this is what I will say. I said this on Friday with Hayes. They have the second highest floor of any team in the West. And I think in this Western Conference, that might matter more than anything else. Their ceiling might not be as high because they don't have the shot making. But if you're telling me that you can just roll into a situation and be the best defensive team there and the best defensive rebounding team and offensive rebound team in that series, that's going to give them a lot of leeway to work from that standpoint. And so today, another great win. They just stomped out OKC a few days ago. And then they come back and get this kind of a win in Golden State. They deserve a lot of credit. And this is exactly the kind of mojo that you want to have on your side headed into the NBA playoff for the first time.
So I've got a question for you about the Rockets that I think we have to talk about after this week that just happened. But first, let's head on over to Jackson Gatlin for more from this game.
Is this year's NBA Defensive Player of the Year, and he just absolutely clamped Steph Curry in the Houston Rockets 106-96 win against the Golden State Warriors. What's up? This is Jackson Gatlin, host of Locked On Rockets, and this was an absolute defensive masterclass from Amen Thompson, holding Steph Curry to just 3 points on 1 of 10 shooting to go with 4 turnovers, the fewest points Steph Curry has scored in his entire NBA career when playing more than 30 minutes in a game. He face guarded Steph Curry all night long, and his unique blend of size, speed, strength, athleticism, defensive awareness, and IQ, and just innate defensive instincts. It was too much. Steph Curry could not get going at all in this game. Amen Thompson is the best defender on the 4th best defensive team in the entire NBA, and he's holding all-star guards to just 40.7% shooting and only 25.6% from downtown this season. He is your Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, I'm not sure I'm all the way there with Jackson, but he's an incredible defender. And what I want to ask you is, has your opinion on the Rockets changed based on what they've done this week?
No, I don't think it changed. I think if anything, it's just like this should be encouraging for Rockets fans. I don't want to be so reactionary because, has my opinion on the Los Angeles Lakers changed in one game versus OKC? No, I don't think my opinion on the Rockets and even furthermore, the Warriors should change. I think in a playoff setting, I'm still taking the Warriors pretty confidently. But the question now becomes, if they play, do they have a pathway? Can I see a way for them to be able to contend and possibly win in a game or in a series? Then I think the answer is yes. So I think they deserve credit because they have come out and they've executed versus 2 of the better teams in the Western Conference, especially some of the winningest teams in the West. And I think that matters. And I think for their own confidence, this is something they can hold on to as they get ready to play in the first 16-game sample size since the James Harden era.
Right. And the playoffs, as we both know, are very different from the regular season and how Houston reacts to being in that situation for the first time with this group. I think will be a really interesting and fun thing to follow out west. But moving on, the Milwaukee Bucks, or at least some guys wearing Milwaukee Bucks uniforms, beat the New Orleans Pelicans, or at least some guys wearing Pelicans uniforms, 111-107. Let's head on out to Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans for more.
Pelicans lose to the Milwaukee Bucks 111-107. I'm host of Locked On Pelicans, Jake Madison here. Not a whole lot of star power in this game with basically nobody playing. No Giannis, no Bobby Portis, no Damian Lillard for the Milwaukee Bucks. No, this list is long. Zion Williamson, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins for the Pelicans here. Look, if you're the Pels, it's kind of the result you want to see here. Even going up against a weaker Bucks team, you compete, but you end up losing, staying in the running for the Cooper Flag trophy, if you will, here. Rookie Antonio Reeves playing really well in this one, 23 points, 5 of 9 from 3. He's going to get a lot of run over these final 5 games of the regular season for New Orleans, looking like he can be a solid rotational piece going forward, particularly with that shooting. Yves Missi with 18 points, 12 rebounds, and looking like he'll be a future starter for New Orleans. about as perfect loss as you can get. We got more over the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
I love the perfect loss term because it definitely is a real thing that does exist. And this is one for New Orleans. And if you're Milwaukee, any win that you can get right now as you're trying to battle the Detroit Pistons to hang on to that 5th seed and find yourself in the 4-5 matchup as opposed to the 3-6 matchup is a helpful win. Milwaukee does have a couple of big games coming up. I presume Giannis will be back for those, but seeing Kevin Porter Jr. and Brook Lopez and Gary Trent Jr. all have good games for the Bucks, certainly a good sign for that group, even if I still don't believe in them.
I don't have any faith in that team whatsoever. But, Giannis is a great player. He's having an incredible week this week. But ultimately, again, I don't know how many people are going to say they have a chance to get out of the first round right now with no Dame, unfortunately. So, but good wins for them.
I mean, even with Dame, if they're facing the Pacers with Dame, I'm not sure that I would pick them to win that series. I know I wouldn't pick them, but I mean, it's more possible. I just don't know how likely it would be for them to get out in that situation. One last one before we move on to another marquee game, but the Atlanta Hawks hosted the worst team in basketball. Yes, the Utah Jazz. So we're going to head out to Brad Rowland for Locked on Hawks.
The Locked on Hawks podcast. And the Hawks got a nice win to some degree on Sunday evening against the Utah Jazz. And part of that was grading on a curve, as the Jazz have been the worst team in the league for a couple of months now. They've now lost 19 of the last 20, so the Hawks were supposed to win at home, and they did so in relatively comfortable fashion by 13 points. The Hawks did take care of business in a big way offensively, putting up 147 points, and at least by the numbers, their most efficient offensive game of the season. Unfortunately, the defense was not quite up to par. In fact, it was their 3rd worst defensive rating of the entire year. It came in a win on the bright side for the Hawks, but still a lot to clean up for Atlanta in advance of what's going to be an interesting showdown on Tuesday in Orlando that could decide the Southeast Division and the number 7 seed in the Eastern Conference. In the meantime, though, a nice win for the Hawks. No more losing streak, and we'll get into more of that and everything else on Locked on Hawks.
That is what you need to know from the Hawks side. And on the Jazz side, Keontae George had 35 points on 10 of 19 shooting. Really nice game for him.
That's my dog. Hey, sick and bear, baby.
Moving on, we've got the Cavs failing to clinch the 1 seed and a really nice win for Indy, or was that a bad loss for Denver? We're going to talk about that straight ahead right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs almost here. FanDuel giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from 3-pointers, steals, assists, rebounds, points scored, first basket, you name it. FanDuel has it. They've got so many ways to bet your favorite player props or, team props too. You think a certain team's going to score over 120 points in a game? Well, you can put your money where your mouth is with FanDuel. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into same game parlays for a chance to win big. I did one of those earlier this week in baseball. It didn't hit. So what did I do? I ran it back the very next day. And of course, it hit on FanDuel. But if you start with FanDuel now, head to FanDuel.com, FanDuel, or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. New customers place your first $5 bet. If that $5 bet hits, $250 in bonus bets headed your way. I can't think of anything better with the NBA playoffs just on the horizon. So like I said, don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com right now. That is FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you again for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. Like we said earlier, if you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On NBA Game Night content. And in Cleveland, the Sacramento Kings beat the Cavaliers 120-113. The Cavs had a chance to clinch the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Magic numbers down to 1, but they couldn't get it done. Donovan Mitchell left the game for a little bit with an ankle injury. That is somebody who is in the arena that plays probably the quietest it's been all year, as he was down grabbing at that left ankle, but we'll see what that happens moving forward. Kings look like they're going to be in 9th in the West, and they're a team that, listen, Zach LaVine was incredible on Sunday. DeMar DeRozan was incredible on Sunday. Domantas Sabonis was incredible on Sunday. When those guys have games like this, it's often like, why don't they just do that more?
Yeah, well, I feel It's just funny that Zach LaVine and DeRozan are having to try to do this again in the West, and it doesn't work. But
instead of doing it with the Chicago Bulls in the East, where it didn't work,
right. But shout out to them, man. They're staying in the hunt, and you get 37 points from Zach. He's one of the best scorers in the league all year. He deserves a lot of credit for how he's handled this year, like just from the transition to Chicago, being with Sacramento, and trying to just kind of reintegrate himself into a new team, new system. Domantas Sabonis with a really strong 27 this year, had a very unheralded defensive season this year. He deserves credit for what he's done. Then DeMar DeRozan with 28 points. So shout out to them, man. Like, they take care of business. They hit some shots. They take care of another Cavs team that, I've long said this. They don't have anything to play for right now. There's literally nothing that is incentivized for them. I know a lot of fans don't like hearing that, and they're saying, like, well, they're fighting for the number 1 overall seed. Like, that doesn't matter. I'm not going to lie to you. If they get out of the Eastern Conference, I've told you this already. That's not the end goal, but that's already a lot for them to beat Boston or to beat the Pacers and these other teams. Like, they just need to make sure they're ready to go.
I mean, how many teams in the how many NBA teams in the NBA, like, if they don't win the finals, is it a failure? I think you can say that about Boston. I don't know if you can say that about OKC, who's not been to a conference finals as a group together. I don't know if you can say that about anybody else. Like, if they make the finals and they start on the road against OKC, okay, that's fine. Like, that is something the Cavs would be thrilled with. They'd be over the moon. They don't care about the number 1 overall seed. They care
that's
about
not going to be your biggest. Yeah, that wouldn't be their biggest issue at all. Like, it's the fact that they're in the NBA finals and now you have to play versus OKC. Or whoever. Like, that's a whole different beast. Like,
well, and if it's against anybody else out of the West, game 1 will be in Cleveland. Like, they've clinched that. They will have clinched at worst the second best record in basketball. So I don't think they have anything to play for. Their next chance to lock up the number 1 seed in the East will be on Tuesday against the Chicago Bulls. We just sort of talked around with DeRozan and LaVine. But moving on to the game that I know you had your eyes closest on today, the Denver Nuggets taking on the Indiana Pacers. Before we get into the Denver side of things, let's head on over to Tony East with Locked On Pacers.
Big time win for the Indiana Pacers, who go into Denver and beat Jokic and the Nuggets 125-120. Tony East here with Locked On Pacers. Didn't look like it was going to go the Pacers' way for a while, down double digits in the first half. Tyrese Halliburton didn't take his first shot till late in the first half, didn't score in the first half of the game, but their offense stuck with it and was great. They got a lot of 4-on-3 chances because the way Halliburton was being covered, they took advantage of that. Obi Toppin starting for Pascal Siakam, who didn't even play. Played very well and hit some shots. Miles Turner hit some shots. The front court for the Pacers was huge. And after Jokic exploded early, 21 points in that first quarter, the Pacers did a much better job of defending the paint, slowing him down, making life hard for the Nuggets. And the Pacers get a huge one. Top 5 secured for them now in the Eastern Conference, looking very likely they'll be the 4th or 5th seed after that one with just a week to go. And we'll have much more on this Pacers win on Locked On Pacers.
Pacers have a chance to win 50 games, which, given the way that this season started for them, not something I necessarily thought would happen. They finish up with the Wizards, the Cavs twice, and they have Orlando mixed in there. 50 games is certainly not out of the question. They're sitting at 47-31. So if you want more Pacers, head on over to Tony East. But this was... Jokic had a second, historically great game in a week, and Denver's 0-2 in those games.
Yeah, you don't want to play defense. You don't want to show up. You don't want to do the small things that win basketball games. They don't look like a team that believes in itself right now, and that's so different than what they were really just a couple weeks ago when they were winning, and they beat OKC, and they were rolling. So they just don't look like a team that believes in this fight, and they don't believe in their schemes. They're not rotating. They're not communicating. You name it right now. Right now, Jokic is backpacking, and he feels like he has to backpack. He got 11 threes up after getting 7 threes up just the other day. He had 11 threes up versus the Wolves. He made 6 of those that game. He made 3 of those today. But the issue is their offense isn't the problem. It's been the defense. They don't believe in what they're doing. And at some point in time, it can't be on Coach Malone and the media demanding that you play defense, demanding that you make rotation, demanding that you do this and that. Christian Brown took it on himself today. He said that he has to take more responsibility for what's happening on the defensive end. He blamed himself for it. But it's just really unfortunate, man. I don't know what's going to happen with this team because they're good enough to where they just all right, fine. In the West playoffs, they just beat everybody. But right now, they look like they could get out in the first round because they just don't look like a team that's here and here they don't believe in what's happening. So it's really, really unfortunate. But this news plus Jamal Murray hopefully being available for the start of the playoffs, like,
not what you want to hear. Not what you want to hear. The saying we hope to have him for the playoffs, considering the playoffs are 2 weeks away. Like 2 weeks from right now, we will be talking about first round playoff games, and saying that that's not a for sure thing is not a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for Jamal. He never wants to be injured, obviously, but this would be the fourth injury that he's had in the last 5 years going into the playoffs, and obviously we saw what happened all those years. So Jokic is having I just want to remind the audience, because I think just for historical record, it's important to note these things. It's like, I saw Bigfoot. You always want to make sure you remember that. You want to tell people that. Jokic is currently averaging 30 points a game, 12.8 rebounds, 10.2 assists, 1.8 blocks on 66 true shooting on modern 63, 42, 80 splits, which is 62 from 2 or 63 from 2. Jokic is averaging 40, basically 13 and 11 for the month of April for the most part. He's having an unprecedented season. He's top 3. He's top 3 in points. He's top 2 in rebounds. He's top 2 in assists. He's top 2 in steals, and he's top 4 in deflections this year. But they might win 49 games or 48 games, in part because the roster is just not where it needs to be. So this is a new league. This is the CBA. If you don't put a good roster around your best players, then this is the kind of league you're going to run into. Because now, as you know, Danny, the league is so talented and so many good players on every team that if you don't, and the math game now, you got to play the 3-point game. If you don't have the talent and the depth and you don't play the math game, you're not going to win consistently 55 games a year. And the Nuggets are behind philosophically as an organization where the rest of the league is right now, I'd argue.
Well, speaking of teams that are talented and maybe underachieve, time to talk about the Phoenix Suns. They lost to the New York Knicks 112-98. Let's head on out to Locked On Suns for more.
Lose yet another game. I think it's 4th in a row. I don't know. I lose track of these. There's been so many this year that you tend to forget. But, at least they put an effort in. Now 98 points, you see that. And you think, well, how much of an effort could you have put in if you didn't even score 100 points in the modern NBA? Devin Booker, 40 points tonight. He wasn't the issue. The issue was everyone else. Flashbacks almost to those Marquise Chris, Dragon Bender, Devin Booker days where you had a bunch of guys and then Devin Booker where no one could hit a shot to save their life. Booker and, even Beal at times made the right pass, finding guys open and just completely clanking it off the side of the rim. So Suns losing again. Season is mercifully coming to a close. Kings beat the Cavs, so the Suns don't gain any ground there, and it's just waiting for the season to end at this point.
Well, lucky for Benjamin, the season is almost over for the Suns, and to his point, they were 4 of 34 from beyond the arc in this game against the New York Knicks.
They're ready to pack it up. They have money.
Yes.
We need to go. We're going on summer trips. The yachts are filled up and gassed. You know what I mean? Bradley
that
Beal
is the 1, 2, 3 Cancun team.
Yeah, 100%.
1, 2, 3 Cancun team.
Yeah, one, 2, 3 Europe, Africa. Where we going, fellas? Like we're going European trip. Let's do it. We got all summer. A month full of backpacking. Let's get it.
Yes.
Let's get it done.
Yes, that is absolutely it. On the side for New York, Jalen Brunson made his played again, 15 points, 6 assists. OG Anunoby had another great game. When Brunson was out, OG played fantastic basketball, best basketball of his career. He had 32 points, 6 boards in this one. Karl-Anthony Towns had 19 points as the Knicks win again, looking like they're going to be the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. And now heading to the East play-in, the Chicago Bulls beat the Hornets 131-117. Kobe White, 37 points on 12 of 16 shooting, just continues an absolute terror that he's been on.
I wonder if he does that in the play-in. If he carries that into the playoffs, you already know running into a hot shooter in the playoffs sucks. So if he can maintain that and actually goes into the offs and all of a sudden he's like, oh, Kobe White through game 4, 35 points per game, 65 true shooting. that would be fun to watch. And so I think that would be a fun story to see, because that would make the playoffs a little bit better in the first round, because they're not going to play anybody in Cleveland and Boston. But shout out to the Bulls, man. They're turning their season around somehow.
Well, you know what that would do? That would give the Bulls all the reason to just run it back. They would look the same next year, and they would again finish in the play-in next year, because that's what the Chicago Bulls do. And then the last game of the night, the Portland Trailblazers get a 120-109 win over the San Antonio Spurs. Toumani Camara had a really nice game in this one, 23 points on 8 of 16 shooting, 10 boards. Shaedon Sharpe, 21 points, little inefficient, but the Blazers get a win over another team that is eliminated from the playoffs. Not much to play for here, but Portland can feel better about itself, having eclipsed the 35-win mark.
Yeah, and they're loaded for next year. Again, this is another team just like Washington, but they're even further ahead than Washington. They have a squad. So I think they have 2 All-Stars in their roster that are in development.
I think that's very possible, and we'll see what kind of lottery luck they get, because if one of these teams that you mentioned is having a bright future, because I'm with you there in Portland.
Don't come west, Cooper. Go east. Yeah. We already have all the 1As in the Western Conference. Go east.
It's not even just Cooper, though. It's like if they jump up to, say, 4th, say the Blazers get the 4th pick and they get one of those lottery tickets, right? That's something that could absolutely change the trajectory of that franchise and make them a true contender sooner than later. I really like what the Blazers have going for them. Nice win for them to get the 35 wins. But thank you for making Locked On Game Night your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find us anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. We're on YouTube as well. So if you're watching this video as we get out of here, make sure you hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any content from us here at Locked On NBA.